Hey peeps, Naisha here, and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to talk about episode 2 of season 4 of Bridgerton. Um, Also there will be spoilers. I'm just gonna say episode 2 to me was pretty good. So if that's all you wanted to hear, like if you just want to hear like it was pretty good and you should go check it out, yeah, that's what you're gonna get, because again, I actually liked it. So yeah, if that's all you wanted to hear, yeah. But now we're gonna get into the spoilers and all that good stuff, and yeah, I'm gonna give you my opinions along the way. So if you here to just hear the spoilers and hear my thoughts, here we go. You have been warned. Spoilers. Also, this is gonna just be a slideshow, so yeah. But anywho, so before I talk about Sophie and Benedict, I'm just going. Yeah, before I talk about Sophie and Benedict, I'm just going to talk about another like side plot, which is Lady Danbury and the Queen first, just to get that out of the way. So basically, in we left off basically like in episode 1 how Lady Danbury was telling the Queen how she wants to go and just go back to like her homeland and just travel and all that stuff and things like that. And of course, the Queen's not hearing, like, as they're playing chess, like you could just tell like the Queen's over it. She don't want to talk about what Lady Danbury told her at the ball in episode 2. She don't want to tell. She not tell, but she doesn't want to talk about it. And of course, Lady Danbury is like, she wants to talk about it and things like that. Like she actually wants to talk about it, but that's not gonna fly. And around this time, one of the Queen's lady in maiden, I'm talking about lady in maiden, wow, words, please. But one of her lady in waiting, basically is asking for time off the court temporarily because she needs to be away for 9 months. And of course the Queen grants her that, but she grants her that permanently. And of course the Queen is talking about like no one is like cares like about, like, trying to say like no one cares about like her and things like that. And Lady Danbury, she kind of feels some type of way because again she wants to leave court, and it seems like the Queen won't let her. So of course they're not seeing eye to eye at this moment, and they have like a little fallout in a way. And of course you see that as time progresses, to the point where Brimsley decides to go to Lady Danbury and asks Lady Danbury to apologize to the Queen. And Lady Danbury's like, I don't have to do that, like I ain't got nothing to apologize for. But Brimsley is like, yeah, you don't have anything to apologize for, but you are her only friend. You know why she's not gonna get another lady in waiting and things like that. She basically, the Queen doesn't really have that much people surrounding her, and her circle is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I'm not gonna lie, at this moment I'm thinking to myself, well, if her circle is so, ugh, oh my goodness, words come to me. If her circle is getting smaller and smaller. Maybe she should expand a little bit. Maybe she should try to be friends with, other people. Try to find like other close confidants. But that's just my opinion on that matter. But anywho, Lady Danbury ends up apologizing to the queen and things like that, and continues on with the game of chess, because also Brimley told her prior that she doesn't let no one play chess with her. She doesn't, you could tell, it seems basically, like I said, Lady Danbury seems like that's her bestie, that's her only friend. She don't want her bestie to go. And we get into that in episode 2. We see the queen basically crying. We see them having, again, like I said, they have they little tit for tat, because the Queen Charlotte is I'm your queen, and basically telling Lady Danbury that she's her subject and stuff like that. And Lady Danbury's oh, I apologize, because I thought we was friends and stuff like that. But as Lady Danbury is about to go, the queen apologizes to her and basically breaks down and says what's going, she doesn't know what she's going to do when the king dies and stuff like that, because she like I said, she doesn't want Lady Danbury to leave, because she always keeps saying you can't leave and things like that, especially she breaks down and saying what I'm gonna do when he dies and stuff like that. And I ain't gonna lie, that was emotional for me, because I was because it seemed like she has no one left, even though she does have her kids and stuff like that. But they have their own life, and she's just distraught. And I was I ain't gonna lie, it's very sad, and I think people should watch that, because I cannot explain it for crap. I thought I could, and when I wasn't recording myself, I explained it perfectly. And now that I'm actually talking and recording this, I can't explain the word for crap. But it's an emotional scene. Almost had me to tears, because I was dang. And of course, Lady Danbury is consoling her and says I'm here, and things like that. And that's what happens for them in episode 2. Now let's get to the whole Benedict and Sophie, what we all been waiting for. So we get to Sophie. The first thing we see is it goes back to the day basically before the ball begins, where we see that Sophie, she's the maid in the Penwood household, and we also see there's some tension between her and Countess, because Sophie, she made a mask for the Countess' first daughter, Rosa. Well, her name is Rosamund, but I feel like I'm saying that wrong, so I'm just going to call her Rosa. And Countess also has another daughter. Her name is Posey. She's actually a little bit nicer to Sophie and defends Sophie, because that's what she does in the beginning. And she keeps doing that. But, I'm just saying, when Sophie goes to see the Countess and her daughters, of course, Rosa says she found her mask, and that it was on her bed, and it seemed like Sophie was hiding, and Posey was like, Sophie didn't hide it. You probably just misplaced it. Maybe you just trying to pin it on Sophie so she could get in trouble. Like, I love Posey. Posey is a sweetheart. Like, you go, Posey. But of course, the Countess shut that down, and she's like, all Sophie has to do is apologize. That's the right thing to do in this situation. And I'm thinking, like, girl, please. But of course, Sophie doesn't. She apologized to Rosa, and then she goes back to where she goes back to where Emma and Affie are, and basically because Affie was helping her with the mask that she was like making for Rosa, but Sophie tells Affie, like, Rosa already found her mask, and then Sophie gets to complaining. Yeah, she basically complains about well, no, first Emma said, well, no. I feel like excuse me, but yeah, Sophie basically gets to talking about how she is envy of the girls with the ladies, but it's more so because they are not going to enjoy the ball. They're going to basically complain about it and things like that. However, she wouldn't mind going just to see the scenery, to just listen to the music, see the people just dancing and things like that. Like, Sophie just, like, she's like, I would love to have a moment. And of course, you see Affie and Emma, they get that look in their eye like, yeah, she going. And so they basically convince her with Affie. It seems like Affie convinces her more to go to the ball. And she ends up getting dressed, but it's like from the attic in the household. And he also gives her the Countess silver shoes and things like that. So after I'm talking about after, but yeah, after that whole thing, we get back into the present time of it, where Benedict is trying to look for basically Sophie. He's trying to look for Sophie. But he goes to Penelope and asks her, for her help. He wants her to write write an article, to try to lure Sophie out. And of course, Penelope is like how is she supposed to write this? Because like she can't actually she can't just say like the lady in the silver gown, because again, she's a young lady. She didn't have a chaperone, and she's with Benedict, like, that night. So it's like, yeah, it doesn't really look good for her. And so Benedict's like, well, just write by me. Say I'm looking for someone. And Penelope is like, are you sure? Because Penelope, like, if I write this, all the mamas and the daughters are going to come to you. And he's like, hey, let them come. And so that's what happens. And of course, Violet, she reads Lady Whistledown. She sees this and she's like she's just shocked that her son is basically trying to, trying to find a lady. And of course, Benedict also asks Eloise to help, for her help, because like he could help her, because their mother is trying to get her off the shelf, even though Eloise wants to be on the shelf. Also, I forgot to say, but my favorite scene is when Eloise and Penelope, like when Benedict is talking, basically talking, stuff like that, trying to like give them information about the lady in the silver gown. I just like there's a moment where both Eloise and Penelope is like, you're a rake and stuff like that, and Benedict is like acting so offended, like like me? No. It's so funny and things like that. But back to what I'm saying. So Benedict is on a mission to find the lady in the silver gown, and so he's talking to every lady, like he's determined. And not only is he talking to them, but he's looking at their mouth and stuff like that, because he actually memorized like how her mouth look and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, like this, interesting. But like, there's nothing else he could go for, because like, again, they were wearing masks, so he doesn't know how she looks and stuff like that. So, and there's also a scene where he like pushes Eloise to this guy to like talk, and she's like, I don't feel like doing that, and he's like, just get information for me and stuff like that. And she's trying to talk to this guy, and it seems like there's like other guys surrounding her, and I was like, you know what, I feel her pain, because I could only imagine just trying to get information for my brother, if I had a brother, like trying to get information for him, and then like, you're surrounded by a group of guys, and they're trying to like, again, because she's a Bridgerton, because like, yeah, so of course, like the Bridgertons are like, everybody basically just, it's fun of the Bridgerton and stuff like that. So you see guys around her, and she's just like help me type of vibe. I was like, poor Eloise. But anywho, as Benedict is looking, like the more he's looking for the lady in silver, the more it's getting kind of not depression, but depressing. Good grief. And it seems like he's getting a little discouraged and things like that. And in one of Penelope's article, she's talking about like how it seems like he's about to give up. Violet reads this, and of course, because like Violet is also trying to get close to Lady Danbury's brother, but like seeing Benedict trying to get a lady and things like that, like she just, because like she wants all her kids to find love. That's basically her goal. Her goal is just, she wants her kids to find love like she had found with their father and stuff like that. And so, and since like 3 of her kids is already, well, not 3, 4. Since 4 of her kids, because I forgot Francesca, since 4 of her kids are, married, she's looking at Benedict. And and Eloise too, but mostly Benedict. And so when she sees that, like, the article says, like, it seems like he might give up, Violet, she decides to go to Penelope. And Penelope is trying to beat around the bush, but Violet's like, listen, you gonna tell me something? And she's like, yes, mama. And so basically she spills, and Violet goes to Benedict, and like he's like, she's like, I already know. Like, first of all, they trying to beat around the bush, and I'm like, let's not be around the bush, go ahead. And when they finally are not being around the bush, I'm like, oh, thank God. Yeah, let's get to the meat, and let's get to the nitty gritty. And of course, Benedict shows her the glove and things like that. And so Violet inspects the glove, but before she inspects the glove, she basically tells Benedict, oh my goodness, please tell me you didn't do anything, crazy to, like, you didn't, do anything inappropriate. And he's like, no, we didn't do anything inappropriate. He didn't even get her name because, like, she ran off too quickly. And then Violet's like, well, if you would have came to me, I would have told you, like, you could just went to the Penwood house and, like, went to the Penwood. And he's like, he already talked to Rosa, that's not her, and stuff like that. But Violet was like, well, there's other ladies at the Penwood estate. So because Violet found something in the glove. I forgot what she said. I think she said that, like, she was close to the Penwoods, but like the I want to say the grandmother, she had I want to say she had something like in border in the glove and stuff like that. So Benedict goes back to the Penwood. Well, not go back, but like he goes to the Penwood, and of course he goes to Posey because he already talked to Rosa. So yeah, he goes to Posey and things like that. And of course Posey's she, like I said, she's a sweetheart, and so she's just talking his ear off. And while she's talking his ear off, we see, like, Sophie is looking at him in the background and smiling, and Affy's like, hey, he's looking for you. You should just go in there and tell him that is you that he's looking for. Like, go ahead and tell him. And she's like, no. Like, they're going back and forth. He is literally, I love Affy because he's literally trying to tell his friend, like, come on, like, you got to, like, can't be me, because I would just push her in there and be like, hey, she the one you looking for. She was in a silver gown and things like that. This is who you was looking for. But, like, that doesn't happen. Of course, Sophie's not going to do that. So, of course, she's like, no. And Benedict, he's talking to Posey. And then he asks Posey, like, what asks Posey, like, what was her costume? And then, of course, Rosa's like, she was a mermaid. And Benedict is like, oh. And then, because I think he ends up saying something about, like, the silver gown. And the only person who takes notice of this is the Countess. And she's like, are you looking for, like, no, I don't think he said it. I think she like because he's talking about like, you know, the masquerade ball and stuff like that. She says, "Are you like, you know, looking for the woman in the silver gown?" And he's trying to be around the bush, not be around the bush, but trying to be vague, like no, he's not, and things like that. And of course, he ends up leaving, and you know, the Countess and Posey and Rosa, they go to the window, and they're they're looking at him and stuff like that. And of course, you know, also to say that the Countess is trying to push hard for Rosa to be with Benedict. Like, she basically in episode 2, it just seems like Rosa is who the Countess is just trying to push hard for. Like, she not really caring about her second daughter. She just only caring about Rosa. I ain't gonna lie, that kind of ticked me off a little bit, because I was like, you have 2 daughters. Hello. Like, unless this ain't her season, now this ain't her season, okay, like you ain't, like next year would be her season or something like that. But like, if this is her season too, shouldn't you be presenting both of them instead of like just thinking about only Rosa? Like, what's going, like, you know, Rosa's future? What about Posey's future? Like, what? Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I do not like the Countess. I wanted to smack her, especially because there's also a scene where she tells, oh yeah, she ends up finding like the silver shoes that Sophie wore to the ball. She ends up finding them scruffed, and so she basically has Sophie polish not only the silver shoes, but all of her shoes and all of Rosa's shoes as well. And it's like, yeah, I don't like her. I don't like her one bit. But anywho, back to what I was saying. As Rosa, Posey, and the Countess are looking at Benedict, they see him take out a glove and things like that. And I'm like, somehow it clicks to the Countess about the glove and things like that. And then she realizes that Sophie is the woman that he's looking for. And of course, you know, yeah, like she knows that, so she goes to Sophie. Well, Sophie's in her room cleaning, and she goes to Sophie, and she's like trying to be like that mean, nice and stuff like that, like trying to be sweet, but we all know that she has a motive. Like, and so she tells, like, basically she gets Sophie to try on the shoes and things like that, and basically she tells Sophie, like, you know, I know it's you, just go ahead and say it's you. It was you, wasn't it? You the silver, you the woman in the silver gown. And of course, you know, Sophie's like, you can punish me, like, do what you gotta do. Like, now that you know that's me, go ahead and do what you gotta do, like, and things like that. And, you know, the Countess, like, you, like, again, she's trying to figure out, not trying to figure out, but she's like, oh, this is more than punishment because you stole and things like that. And of course, you know, Sophie's like, okay, so why did you let me live here? Like, what was your goal to letting me live here and stuff? Like, if you're just gonna treat me any type of way, like, what was the point of, you could just kick me out on the street and things like that. And also, we do get flashbacks. And again, like I said, I probably said this already, but yeah, I'm a sucker for flashbacks. Whether it's in books, movies, TV shows, it don't matter. I'm a sucker for a flashback. And I don't think I mentioned, but yeah, I'm a sucker for flashbacks. And we do get flashbacks of Sophie's past. Like, actually, Countess is Sophie's stepmom, and Countess is Sophie's stepmom. Also, Sophie don't really know much about her actual mom, because in the flashbacks, like one specific flashback, like she's trying to ask her dad about it, about her mom, and her dad's like, you have me now, I will always, like, take care of you and make sure you take care of, and things like that. And it's like, what's the secret about the mama? And then in the other flashbacks, because like we get like three, well, one, the flashback, Sophie meets the Countess and the Countess like daughters when they're young, and of course Sophie's father introduced the Countess to Sophie as his ward, and of course you can see the Countess is taken back to that and don't see like she liked that at all, which I'm thinking, like, why would you make that face at a child? Because the face she made, like, you have to watch it. You definitely have to watch it, because the face she made is like, you just look like you taste something awful. And so the last flashback we get is like Sophie's father done died, and of course, Countess said that her dad didn't leave her anything. I feel like she lying. That's just me. I feel like she lying. But, the Countess said she would take care of Sophie, and she would just be the maid, and of course, Sophie was like, what, the maid? And then, of course, Countess trying to make it seem like that, like, it's better than anything, even though she treats her horribly as the maid. And then when we are brought back to the present, also these flashbacks, like, they come at different time and stuff like that. But but during the final flashback, I want to say, like, after that, the Countess just tells Sophie she needs to leave and she can't work in London and stuff like that. And like, Sophie's like shocked, but like, she has no choice. Of course, she packs up everything and she heads to leave, and she says goodbye to Emma and Affy, and Emma like gives her money that like all of them have saved up for her. Well, not saved up for her, but they put in together and things like that. And of course, Affy tells Sophie, like, don't say anything. I want to be mad, because, and you know what? I ain't gonna lie, I'll be just like him. Like, say if me and my bestie was working a job and she got fired and stuff like that, I'm gonna be honest, and I'm gonna be angry too. I'm going to be angry too, especially if she was fired for, like, not only fired, but like, again, this is her stepmother. This is her stepmother. Like, Posey and Rosa are her stepsisters and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not right. She been demoted to the maid. Now she's fired. She has nowhere to go. It's not like Countess was paying her, because we find out that she ain't been paying her anything either. So it's like, well, dang. So, of course, as she's about to leave, Posey, she comes down and gives her something. It's like, it's not much, but like, sell it so you could, like, so it could help you. And Posey tries to give her a hug, but Rosa steps in talking about, like, know your place. And I'm thinking, like, this heifer, like, Rosie, you a nice one, because I would have been like, I would have backhand her and then still end up hugging Sophie, because, like, you're not gonna tell me who I can't hug. Like, mind your business. And then, of course, Rosa, she's saying some stuck up to Sophie and things like that. And Sophie ends up leaving. And I was surprised that Sophie didn't just end up going to the Bridgerton household. Like, I know it's like nighttime and stuff, but I'm surprised she didn't end up going to the household and being like, hey, I'm the one in the silver gown that you're trying to look for. But no, she doesn't end up doing that. She ends up like basically leaving London. Anywho, we cut to Benedict. Like, it seemed like he's done giving up. And he's like, you know what, he's going back. He actually is going back to his old ways. That's what it seems like is happening. So, like, he has a moment with Eloise. Because, like I said, Eloise is the only sibling, like, he actually talks to and be's, like, kind of raw and vulnerable to. And, he's like, yeah, I'm, like, he's going back to his old ways. He does end up partnering a little too hard, in my opinion, because he ends up at like at a countryside at someone's house, estate, and he ends up talking to like a friend and things like that. While he's doing that, we see this servant. We see one of the servants, like, offering the men drinks, and then this one guy is like trying to hit on her and stuff like that. And then he says something like, oh, I'm gonna get you at the end of the night. And I'm thinking to myself, excuse me, you're not gonna get nothing. What? I was like, oh my goodness, don't piss me off. I was thinking that to myself, like, do not piss me off. But anywho, I want to say, as soon as, like, Benedict goes outside. He goes outside for something. Either he goes to leave or he goes for fresh air. But he sees these like, I want to say 3 guys. He sees these 3 guys, like, basically harassing the same servant. And he was about to jump in, but Sophie ends up jumping in, and she throws, like, she throws water at, like, one of the guys and stuff, and he's, like, calling her the B word, and he's about to attack her because she told the other girl to run. And, of course, Benedict jumps in, and, he does his big one. I was like, yeah, you beat him. Kick his butt, Benedict. I was so proud of him. Like, yeah. And, he's threatening him and things like that. And, of course, the guy said he's not going to touch, like, no woman. He's not going to touch her. But he says, but she's fired. And so, of course, Sophie goes, like, she walks away. And then, yeah, she walks away. And I'm trying to think, was that when the flashback? I'm thinking that's when the flashback of them at the funeral happened. Cause, like, we go back. Yeah, I think that's what happened. Like I said, I apologize. And stuff like that. Once I watch stuff, like, certain things pop into my mind, but other things, yeah, it leaves it sometimes. So I apologize. But basically, we cut back to, like, Benedict is, trying to talk to Sophie, and he's like, Sophie, like, he doesn't, I don't think he knows her name just yet. But she know his, and he was like, "Dude, have we met?" Like, he keeps asking her, and it's like, oh my goodness, it ticked me off. Like, I understand, I get it. It's not time for her to reveal herself just yet, but it still ticked me off because he asked twice in this episode. At the end of this episode, he asked twice, "Have we met before?" Like, he just keeps asking, and of course, he is trying to convince her to, like, like he tell her like he'll help her find a job. Not only find a job, but like, you know, it's not safe. It's nighttime. It's dark. She's talking about she's walking to the nearest town. And it's like, yo, he's like trying to tell her like, yeah, it's dark. It's not safe. And he was like, look, I won't even look at you while we in the carriage and things like that. And of course, you know, she gets into his carriage and things like that. And that's when he asks her the second time, like, have we met? Because, like, again, they hold hands and he just feels some type of connection, which is of expected. And she's like, no. And of course, you know, that's how episode 2 ends. Overall, I like this episode. I don't know why I was about to say love. It's still a good episode. Like, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the episode and stuff like that. Especially the parts that was emotional and how Benedict was vulnerable. And not only that, but also like Lady and Danbury. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of the side stories. Especially in season 3. I was not. Because I was all for Colin and Penelope. I wanted a whole lot of Colin and Penelope. Because I don't know if anyone be noticing. But like ever since season 1. It seemed like season 2 and 3, it seemed like we get more and more side characters, and it's like I don't really care about the side characters like that. I want the main couples, okay? And I think that's the reason why I didn't really care for season 2 that much and stuff like that. Like, don't get me wrong, love Kay and Anthony. However, like, I just kept seeing like most of like the side stories. I didn't really care for the side stories. And then of course, you know, there was a whole lot of side stories in season 3, and that ticked me off because I was like, we didn't get that much of Colin and Penelope in my opinion. So it's like season 4, y'all better redeem yourself, and so far y'all are redeeming yourselves. So congratulations for that. Continue to do that. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed episode 2. I can't wait for episode 3 because it's like, come on, Sophie, you almost there. You almost there. Like, you sitting by him, you could tell him. And also, I'm kind of curious to see like what's going to happen. Because like, again, I feel like the Countess lied about Sophie dad not putting her in the will. Like, that's her dad. Like, and you could tell he loved her, so it's like, I don't believe her. So yeah, kind of curious to see how this is going to play out. And yeah, I was very curious because especially when she was told to leave and she got in the carriage, I was like, okay, so how is this story going to go? Like, yeah, so I'm curious to see what episode 3 brings. And that's all I have to say about episode 2. Sorry, this is very chaotic recap. I apologize. I really do. Because, like, and I think what happened was, like, I was, like, after I watched it, I was doing other stuff, so other things was on my mind. So yeah, sorry if this recap was all over the place. I apologize, but that's all I remember in episode 2 and what I thought of it. So let me know down in the comments below what you guys think of it, and if I was missing anything, please let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time,